A very good morning to dear students. Hope you all are happy and healthy at your home. Welcome back to our English class. Dear children, which is the best listening activity we all love? Of course, listening to stories. This is liked by all. Whether it be a humorous story, adventurous story or folk tale. And to narrate the same story to other also is equally interesting. And I know you all love to listen story and narrate the same to your friends. Yes, it is indeed very good way to improve our communication skills. In the poem Storyteller, we all understood the importance of stories. How important are the stories in our lives? So let us take this journey ahead and enjoy about the African folk tale Anansi and Five, and this is the topic for our session. But what do you mean by folk tale? Folk tale is a tale originated from a particular region. Tale, it means a story. African folk tale means a story originated from Africa, and people of that region kept on narrating, and thus it became famous. So, we are going to begin with lesson number 3, Anansi and Five. Before we go ahead, let me explain you the new words. Creature. Creature means a small living being that can move independently. Now comes the word witch, and you might have seen witch in the movie Harry Potter. So who is witch? Witch is a woman who is believed to have magical powers. Now comes trickster. Trickster is a naughty person, a person who cheats others. Then comes mumbling. It means speaking quietly in a very low voice without opening mouth. Muttering. To speak in a low, quiet and often in an angry tone. Pound. Pound here. I'm explaining. To hit something hard many times, making a lot of noise. We pound on something when we get angry. Snatched. Snatched means grabbed. Sparkle means twinkle. Then comes peeked. Looked for a short time or while trying to avoid being seen. Here you can see a cat peeked out from under a door. So, dear children, let us begin. I have explained some new words here, and I'll be explaining some while the explanation of the text. So, let us begin. Be attentive so that you can answer all my questions at the end of the session. Shall we begin? Okay, let's get started. Once upon a time, long ago, there lived a creature called Anansi. So this is a story about a long time, the time that has passed away. And the story deals with a creature, Anansi. What do you mean by creature? A small living being. And what is the name of that creature? Anansi. Sometimes Anansi was a spider, sometimes he was a man, and other times he was a strange mix of the two. Anansi was a trickster and he was having a difficult time. He had no money to buy food for his family. As he walked around the village early one morning, he had a scowl on his face and a growl in his stomach. So, this is a story about a small living creature, Anansi. And what was special about Anansi? Sometimes Anansi was a spider. Sometimes he was a man, and sometimes he was a mix of two, half man and half spider. He has a face of a man and legs of a spider. And he had 8 thin legs. Anansi was a trickster. It means he was a very mischievous being, and he often cheats others. And he was undergoing a very difficult time, a tough time, a bad phase. Difficult time, it means tough time, bad time. Why? Because he had no money to buy food for his family. And because of that, one morning when he was walking, he was very unhappy. Scowl on his face, it means he had an angry expression. He was very unhappy. And growl in his stomach, as he had no money. He could not buy anything. And as he could not buy anything, he could not eat anything. He was so hungry that there was a sound in his stomach. That was because he was hungry. He didn't have anything to eat. Passing by a neighbor's house, Anansi heard something that pleased him. Pleased him, it means made him happy. What was that made Anansi happy? For that, let us go ahead. The neighbor was an old witch. Whose neighbor? Anansi's neighbor was an old witch. And what do you mean by witch? A woman who had magical powers. She was an angry and unpleasant witch who became furious whenever anyone said her name. So who was angry? Witch. An unpleasant witch. Unpleasant witch means unhappy. Unpleasant means unhappy. Who became furious. Furious means angry. Why he got angry? Because of her name. She didn't like her name. She hated her name. Hated means disliked her name. All through her life, people had laughed or looked surprised when they heard what her name was. Can you guess what her name was? It was 5. So, what was the reason for her anger? Why she disliked her name? Because everybody laughed at her because of her name. And what was her name? Her name was 5. Have you ever heard anyone's name 5? No, but the witch had. What was her name? 5. Whose name was 5? Witch's name was 5. Where does witch stay? In whose neighborhood? Anansi's neighborhood. Who was Anansi? Anansi was a small living creature. What was special about Anansi? Sometimes Anansi was a spider, sometimes he was a man, and other times he was a strange mix of two. Was Anansi a trickster? Yes, Anansi was a trickster. And why was Anansi unhappy? Because he had no money to buy food for his family. And why was the witch unhappy? Because of her name. She hated her name. Why? Because everybody laughed at her because of the name. So let us go ahead. Anansi peeked through a gap in the witch's fence. She was stirring her big cooking pot and muttering and mumbling a spell. The smoke and the sparks were blue and green. So Anansi knew she was cooking up some big magic. Suddenly, she snatched up her staff and started to pound it on the ground as she walked around the pot. Anansi listened carefully to what she said. I curse anyone who says the word 5 to disappear forever. Anansi noticed something in his neighborhood as he was passing by. Anansi peeked through a gap. It means he partially saw. what was going in his neighborhood. He saw a witch. And what witch was doing? He was mixing her big cooking pot. Stirring, it means mixing, and mumbling and muttering, it means without opening her mouth properly. The witch was speaking to herself a spell. What do you mean by spell? A group of words that is believed to have some magical power, like abracadabra and so on. And when the witch was mixing something in her big cooking pot, the smoke of blue and green color started coming up, and suddenly he grabbed her staff. What do you mean by staff? Staff, it means a big wooden rod, and he pounded. He hit it something very hard on the ground in anger, which was in great anger. Why he was so angry? Because everybody was laughing at her and saying her name, and that is the thing she disliked. And Anansi was listening to whole thing which was doing. Anansi also noticed the curse. And what was the curse she said? The witch said if anyone would say 5, the person would disappear in a minute. And this is what Anansi heard. And Anansi was so happy to know this, to know the curse, because Anansi was a trickster. Some bad thing was coming in his mind. And what was running in Anansi's mind? To know that, we have to go ahead. So let us go ahead. Anansi rubbed his hands together and jumped around on his 8 hairy legs. Ah, this could make me some more money or get some food on the table for my family. He smiled widely and his sharp teeth sparkled. So Anansi was jumping in air. He was very happy. Why he was happy? Because he heard something from the witch. He heard about the curse and he got an idea to fool people, to trick people. And he said, ah is a word used as an interjection, used to show the sudden expression. Wow, he was so happy and he smiled to himself. As he was too happy, his sharp teeth sparkled, his sharp teeth shone, and he was very happy to know that he can get some food for himself. So this was all for today. Dear children, the lesson is about Anansi and how he tricks the other people. For the next session, we'll meet again on next day. So, are you all ready to answer my question? So, my first question is, what was the witch's name and why didn't she like it? What was the witch doing in her garden? Why was Anansi pleased? These 3 questions you have to answer in your rough notebook. You don't have to write the answers in your regular notebook. We'll meet again the next day to continue our further session. Till then, take care of yourself. Be safe at your homes. Bye-bye. Take care.